the last 6 seasons worth of NFC North champions. They're all the Packers, but one. We talked about the Vikings earlier. ATN podcast crew trying to fix them. Are they the biggest threat? Is there a threat here legitimately to the Packers in the NFC North, knowing full well the Lions were a wild card a year ago?
Yeah, it's a tough situation in the North because outside maybe the Patriots in the AFC East, is there a bigger favorite than the Packers in the NFC North right now? So, Greg, I'll start with you.
Sure.
Make the case for another team other than the Packers to win this division.
I mean, the case was right on that board. The Minnesota Vikings just won the division with a lot of the same pieces that are still there. I mean, we fell for the Vikings. They were kind of the trendy team last year, and sometimes the trendy team ends up doing it the year after they're trendy, and I still like that front seven. I like Mike Zimmer.
You heard about the quarterback holding a team hostage. The offensive line held the Vikings hostage last year. They've picked up a couple of tackles in free agency. While everybody was sleeping on the Vikings, Sam Bradford became the quarterback he was drafted to be at number 1 overall. He was one of the best downfield passers in football last year.
I'd like to see what happens with Minnesota without all the injuries, too. I mean, they quietly handled that very well over the first half of the season. But when you talk about the biggest threat to the Green Bay Packers, for me, it's the Packers. Because, yes, even if they win the division, for me, every single season dating back to when Brett Favre started in 1992, transition Aaron Rodgers, 2 Super Bowls the whole time with those 2 quarterbacks. They find a way, especially under Rodgers of late, to get into the playoffs and implode. They're going to break that city's heart again if they don't figure it out. Dom Capers brought back another season. No matter what happened, you bring them all back again, and it all repeats. They've got to get out of their own way and dominate the way that we say they can all offseason.
Well, wait a minute. Are you actually going to say, Sessler, that the Packers are a bigger threat to the Packers than, say... no one's picking the Bears, right? So you're going to ignore the Bears and say the Packers can beat themselves better than the Bears can beat the
This
Packers.
happens all the time. Teams get into the psychology of what their path has been under coaches and quarterbacks, and this has happened in January over and over. Incredibly talented, but
the Packers, they're hitting a glass ceiling in January. But in terms of this discussion, what about the division? Is there someone that could sweep in? And no one's brought up the Lions or the Bears. Is it only the Vikings or bust to stop the Packers? Is that what we're talking about here?
The Bears are a bigger threat to John Fox's job security after the offseason they've had. I mean, they've gotten worse. They've gotten worse at wide receiver. They've gotten worse at quarterback, and I'm not sure they're better at any other position.
I think Mark is right because the Packers do this every year, and that's why I could see the Vikings winning the division if everything went well, because the Packers get in their own way during the regular season. They dig a hole. They find their way out. Sure, you should win that division when Aaron Rodgers is your quarterback, but the defense to me doesn't look much better, if better at all, than it was a year ago, and it wasn't very good. The Vikings could be a more complete team. That's the unsaid thing here. Sam Bradford, it sounds a little crazy, but right now I think he has a little higher ceiling than we thought Teddy Bridgewater did a year ago.
And it's consistent for us to completely dismiss the Lions, so we're just continuing along that course.
And the Lions fans are going to get upset, but it's nothing against them. We talked about them yesterday, that they need a little more juice. Everybody's got to calm down a little bit with the Sam Bradford's got more to give us. I thought that might have been a best-case scenario last year.
He played great. The Lions were 0-6 against playoff teams, too. Let's not treat them like they were a normal playoff team.
All right, there you go. I mean, we'll see what happens, Andrew, but that's what we got. The Packers are the Packers' own worst enemy. That's the way we look at it.
Evidently, they're looking at the man in the mirror, according to Mark Sessler.